So, as you said, my name is Roxanne Bowen. I work in the Counseling and Testing Office at Walter State. I also am the coordinator of multicultural engagement, which pretty much means anything that can make you diverse in any way. If you ever have any issues or you just need to talk to somebody, you can come talk to me. What is considered diverse at Walter State is racial minorities, first generation. So if your parents didn't go to college, this year you're the first ones to go to college, that makes you you're considered diverse. If you have a documented disability, if you are a veteran, there are certain counties that there's the rate of the people in those counties are very, very low that have college degrees, and over 25. So any of that can make you diverse at Walter State. So just enough about me. I want to talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion and kind of what it means to us individually and to you guys in your profession. So everyone may not like peanut butter and banana sandwiches, but those two things together create a different flavor, unique, that they don't possess alone. You as Culinary, y'all kind of know that already. So life is like that. Sometimes similarities bring us together, and sometimes our differences can make us better. So diversity may be the hardest thing for society to live with, and perhaps the most dangerous thing for society to be without. So let's talk a little bit about some things, some definitions dealing with diversity. Diversity, differences in racial and ethnic, socioeconomic, geographic, and academic, professional, any differences in those in your background. People with different opinions, backgrounds, religious beliefs, political beliefs, sexual orientation, heritage, and life experiences. Any of those things are considered diversity. So for us, when you're making a cake, all of these ingredients are very different. You know, these are the mix. This is what you use to make your cake, right? When we talk about inclusion, this involves bringing together and harnessing diverse forces and resources that make it beneficial. So inclusion puts the concept and practice of diversity in action by creating an environment of involvement, respect, connection, where richness of ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to create business values and overall success. So that's making the mix. So, you know, using this in culinary, all those different ingredients have very different principles. By themselves, they're good by themselves, but when you put them together in this mix, you make something different and wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about culture. The definition of culture for Merriam-Webster Dictionary is an integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. The customary beliefs, social forms, and materials, traits of a racial, religious, or social group. The characteristic or features of everyday existence or your way of life, shared by people in a place or time, or a set standards of attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. So that's what we mean by culture. So even in different cultures, you can have diversity, but really when you talk about culture, there's a lot that goes into that. So when we talk about, you know, these are a lot of buzzwords you hear lately. Diversity, inclusion, diversity, inclusion. You know, what is the difference? So diversity is a representation of many types of people. Diversity focuses on differences. So when we talked about the mix, you're looking at the different parts of it. Inclusion is the deliberate act of welcoming diversity and creating an environment where all different kinds of people can thrive and succeed. So the act of inclusion is making the mix work. So getting all of those ingredients together, mixing them together, and coming up with something that's unique and works well. Diversity is what you have. Inclusion is what you do. So just having a diverse group or team is not enough. Everyone should feel safe and encouraged to fully participate and share on equal footing as everyone else. They say diversity is being invited to the meeting. If you have a table, again with Culinary, diversity is inviting someone to the table. Inclusion is actually having them a seat to sit down at the table. That makes sense. So when we look at the world, we see different things. When we look at things, we're looking at through a lens based on our experiences. We see the world not how everyone else sees the world, but we all have different perspectives on how we see. So when you look at this, you see various people. When we look at each of these pictures, we have assumptions based on what they look like. We have assumptions of someone with red hair. We have assumption of someone with blonde hair. We make assumptions when we walk around, when we see people that are overweight or someone that's in a wheelchair. We make assumptions about people by just seeing when we look at them. We all have cultural filters. Each of us is different, and so we interpret behavior through our own cultural filter, based on our religion, based on our makeup at home, based on our socioeconomic backgrounds. We create our own cultural filter, and we look at things through that filter. So one effect of our cultural programming is that it puts us on automatic. So when we see someone that's overweight, we may have an automatic thought of why they're overweight. When we see someone that plays basketball that's black, we have an automatic assumption about that person. When we're children and we're learning about the world, some of these messages that we receive about people are different. They are wrong information. Some of the messages came from our parents, friends, teachers, and friends. It's not that they intended to feed us bad information, but they were simply passing on messages that they have been given. Some of the messages we received came from people. Sometimes it comes from the media, television, textbooks. We have a lot of social media now, so we get a lot of different things and information based on that. Some of the information, the misinformation, creates stereotypes for us. These become mental tapes, and they affect how we feel about people who are different from ourselves. They also affect how we respond to people who are different from us. Sometimes these responses can be automatic. So, you know, we just automatically have these thoughts that pop up. So let's take a moment, and I won't make you say it out loud, but when you see these things, when you see the politician, and there's something that automatically pops up in your head, homeless person, lawyer, black male teenager, a professor, a police officer, a man in a wheelchair, a farmer, somebody from California, 300-pound man, and these are going to be different based on your cultural filters, the things that in your mind that you've done. I'll give you some examples of some things in the past that people have said. They think of a politician, a liar, government, white man, a lawyer, evasive, expensive snake, someone who compromises, professor, absent-minded, intelligent, educator, lifelong learning, man in a wheelchair, weak, helpless, dependent, feel pity, suffering, asexual, a Californian, surfer, physically fit, blonde, tan, homeless person, irresponsible, dangerous, drug and alcohol addicts, unfortunate, male black teenager, good athlete or drug dealer, policeman, power hungry, helpful, trust, beater or abuser or risk taker, a farmer, hard worker, unsophisticated country bumpkin, 300-pound man, 300-pound woman, motherly, lacking in discipline, lazy, greedy, unattractive, jolly. These are just some things that people have said in the past. These are things that we may assume about these people without knowing anything about them. When we stereotype, we place a person in a particular mental file, not based on any information gained through knowledge about a person or personal experience with that particular person. Rather, we assign the person to a mental file based on what we believe about the group that which they belong. We all have done this. Nobody is perfect. We all have stereotyped people from time to time. We just have to know that we all have prejudices, and to try to look past them and to try to get to know each other for who we are and hope that the other person will give us the same courtesy. You know, that's kind of what we need to do. When we don't acknowledge that we have a stereotype is when we act on those. A lot of times we pretend like, you know, I love everybody, when you really don't. And unconsciously, you may treat them differently. I was telling some of the students earlier, before I came to work at Walter State, I worked at Mountain View, which is a juvenile prison for teenage males. 13 to 18, they committed at least 3 felonies or 1 serious crime against person like murder or rape or attempted murder or rape. Some of the kids I liked, some of the kids I didn't like. Our personalities just didn't mesh. I just didn't like them. But I was honest with myself that I didn't like this particular student. And so I took particular care to make sure I did not discriminate against them. For instance, I was responsible for letting them have contact with their families. If they got to call their parents or their guardians, it was through me. So if I knew I had a long day and I might not get to everybody that day, I always chose the student that I didn't like first to make sure I didn't choose him last because I knew I didn't particularly care for him. I was aware of my feelings, and so I made sure not to discriminate and treat him badly based on my personal feelings. So you're in college and you're thinking, okay, why are we talking about this? Why does it matter? Well, it expands your worldliness. College may be the first time you have an opportunity to have real interaction with people from diverse groups. You all are in Sevier County, so you have a population that's a little bit different than some of the other counties around here. You have people that come here from other countries to work, so you may be exposed a little bit more. But when you come to college, you're going to have people that come in just to come. You have a culinary great program. There are going to be people that come here just for that. And so you may be exposed to people that you've never been around before. Diversity enhances your social development. Interacting with people from various groups it widens your social circle, expanding your pool of people whom you can associate with and develop relationships. It prepares you for your future career and your success. Successful performance in today's diverse workforce requires sensitivity to human differences and ability to relate to people from different cultures and backgrounds. More so now than ever, we live in a global society. You're going to come in contact with people that are different from you. They didn't come from where you're from. They may not believe the way you believe. And we got to learn to respect their differences just as we want them to respect ours. We got to learn how to look past, not necessarily look past, but understand that we probably have more in common than we don't. And to be able to get along with people from different backgrounds. You're in culinary, you could end up, I know we have students that end up all over the place, in New York and in New Orleans and different places. And you're gonna come in contact with tourists and people from different places. And your ability to keep your job and do your job well is going to be dependent on how you're able to embrace people from different backgrounds and get along with them. interactions with people different from ourselves increase our knowledge base. Research consistently shows that we learn more from people who are different from us than we learn from people who are similar to us. It promotes creative thinking. It expands your capacity for viewing issues or problems from multiple perspectives, angles, and vantage points. And when I look at these two things, thinking of you guys in particular, so you're always trying to expand your knowledge and make new dishes, make different things. You're gonna be able to do that more if you talk to people from different cultures who cook something differently. So you may be like, oh, well, I can use that technique with this and blend it together to make something different. You're not gonna be able to do that if you can't talk to somebody else. If you look at somebody and make an assumption about them or things like that, you're not gonna be able to make those kinds of creative decisions and increase your knowledge because you shut yourself off. Diversity increases your self-awareness. Learning from people whose backgrounds and experiences differ from yours sharpens your own self-knowledge and self-insight by allowing you to compare and contrast your life experiences with those who live life experiences that differ sharply from your own. Diversity enriches multiple perspectives and develops a liberal arts education, which is what we have. I have friends from all walks and backgrounds. I have friends from different religions. I have traveled to 12 different countries, I think, and it is amazing to see the difference and the similarities that we have. If I'm cut off and I'm looked down on somebody from a different country, I'm not gonna be able to learn from them. They're not gonna be able to learn from me. They may see Americans on TV and have a certain perspective, but then they meet me and they're like, oh, everybody's not like that. And it expands them as well as it expands my knowledge, to learn how they make things. When I was in Italy, we had a tour and they taught us how they made homemade pasta and their homemade sauce and their homemade salad dressings. I developed relationships with some of these people that I still have today. We talk on Facebook and I'm invited to come back to their homes in different countries because I was open to their experiences and open to their way of life that may be different from mine. And my life is a lot better for it. I have a lot more understanding of, again, we all have differences, but we're a lot more alike than we want to believe. But you're not gonna know that if you don't get to know people. So some of the things that we have to do is recognize your own ethnocentricity, the ways in which you stereotype, judge, discriminate, and your own emotional actions to other cultures and values. We have to understand that we need to be respectful of people from diverse values and behaviors. We need to accept that each culture values some things that are more important and some behaviors are more desirable than others. You have to understand the effect of historic distrust has on present day interactions and have a clear sense of your individual culture. When I went to Germany, it was really interesting because we have this whole thought process of the Germans and World War II and all the horrible things that they did, which was horrible. What I liked about Germany is that they embrace what they did. They acknowledge the mistakes that they made. Every child that is school age, all of their concentration camps have been turned into museums. Every single child has to go to at least one of those during their school time. So they understand the bad things that they did and so that they don't repeat those behaviors. They acknowledge how it happened and they make an active effort to never do that again. I think that's very important. You have to acknowledge those bad things, even when they're about yourself, because none of us is perfect. It's okay if you make a misstep. We have to give people room to change. You have to give people room to grow. Dr. Seuss, when he first started, I love Dr. Seuss books. When he first started creating little cartoons. A lot of them were political and a lot of them were racist. They were horribly racist. But now when we see his books, they're about diversity. He has, you know, trying to teach children that people that are different are not necessarily bad and how you embrace that. He changed and we have to give him room to change. We don't cancel him because he did something bad. We give him room to grow, and he turned it around and used his influence for good. We have to understand how our culture affects those whose culture is different. We recognize similarities that are shared across the human culture and the differences among individual cultures in these groups. These are not limited to, but include the desire for safety, good health, education and well-being of our children, love and belongingness, self-esteem, feeling worthy, and the ability to pursue and achieve our potential. We all want that, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your race, regardless of your socioeconomic background, regardless of your religion. These are things that we all share and that we're all striving for. So we're gonna do a little exercise. Don't think really hard about this, okay? And then we're gonna watch a short video and discuss it. So, if the world's population was shrunk to just a village of 100 people, what would it look like? So I'm gonna let you guess. And again, you don't have to say these out loud, but just take a couple minutes and look at it. You don't have to necessarily write it down, but just look at it and think about it, and then we're gonna discuss it. And so I kind of put lines so you know, like, those first 5, your 100 would be in there. Female or male, non-white, white, non-Christian, Christian. Just kind of look down that list and kind of think about what you think it would look like. The whole world into 100 people.
Does it have to be one of these interests?
Well, you're gonna look at these and you're gonna say, so if there was 100 people that represented the whole world, how many would be Asian, how many would be European, how many would be from US and Canada, how many would be Latin American, and how many would be African? And then you go to the next, so if there's 100 people that represent the whole world, how many would be male and how many would be female? Does that make more sense? So when you get down to the bottom, those don't really necessarily have to add up to 100 together.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you got them wrong. Okay.
Okay. I try to make it a little bit more so we could figure that out. So the last few could be any number between 0 and 100. And we're gonna watch a little video about it, and then there's some he didn't. He doesn't hit on all of these, but we'll try to figure out the ones. Yeah, that's great.
Do you help him play the video?
Yeah, it's embedded in my thing. I played with it yesterday and it worked just fine.
Should be. Is it through your laptop? Is that what's plugged in?
It's actually on the,
Oh, on this itself.
We could go to YouTube maybe.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll go over it anyway.
No video?
I'll try to play the video in a minute. I'll just pull it up on YouTube. We'll watch it at the end, because it's kind of neat. So, here's some of the breakdowns. So, 61 would be from Asia, 10 from Europe, 5 from US and Canada.
This is the actual statistics.
Yes. So this means, I think sometimes I was talking to someone in my office about this when we were, talking about wars and this, that, and I said, we gotta have our allies because we are 5% of the world's population. We think that we're more than that, but we're really just 5% of the world population.
Wow.
Yeah. So, some of the breakdowns, the Asians, 20 would be Chinese, 17 would be Indian, there would be none from Australia, Oceania, or the Antarctic. So there's less than, and pretty much it's like 75 million people per one person, so that means there's less than 75 million in Australia, Oceania, and Antarctica. For the religions, 20 would be Muslim, 12 Hindu, 6 Buddhist, 2 atheists, 12 would be non-religious, and 14 would be other religions. $25 would live in substandard or no housing at all. 18 would not be able to read. 13 would suffer from malnutrition. 17 would be overweight. 33 would have cell phones. 22 would be pregnant or near birth. Oh, that number's wrong. 7 would have a college education. 7.
So is it pregnant? That one says 2, you said 22.
Thank you. It's 2. 2 would be pregnant. 7 would have a college education. So 16 would have internet access at home. So 33 to 42, I think, would be able to have internet access, just not at home. So they would have to go to an internet cafe or somewhere else. So they could get to it, but they would not be able to access it at home. And so 12 would be active Facebook users.
It'd be really cool to get
18 would have a car or access to a car. 30 would be employed or unemployed. 63 would have inadequate sanitation. 26 would be under 14. 33 would have a cell phone. 5 would be LGBTQA+. 51 will live on less than $2 a day. 1 would have 40% of the wealth. So 6 would have half of the wealth. And the majority of those would be from the United States. Those numbers kind of shocking.
Not a lot of Mexicans, is there?
Well, they would be, that's in the South America. So when you go back to
Nine.
the Latin American countries, there's 9. It would be from Latin America. So, how you embrace your diversity. Consider your own life, and that everyone has everything that has shaped your beliefs. Realize that each of the 7 billion people on this planet has their own narrative. No one is the same. When you find yourself thinking poorly of someone, stop and consider what influences have created your negative views on that individual. Befriend all people. If you know that you tend to avoid befriending certain types of people, go out of your way to find friends of all kinds. Empathy. When you can't encounter someone, try to imagine, understand, and sympathize with that person's story, with everything that has made them who they are. Actively accept Meditate upon embracing other people with all of the diversity that comes with them. Don't allow yourself to define a person based on one stereotype or one aspect of their complex identity. Perform random acts of kindness for all types of people. It can be as simple as a friendly smile or holding a door open. I cannot remember who said it, but there's a quote that says, "Be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." You know, we may meet people on their worst day. Kind of remember that. They may meet us, we may have a bad day. We don't want that to be, we don't want the worst thing that we've done to define who we are for the rest of our lives, because none of us are perfect. It's okay to be wrong. When you're wrong, it's okay to admit that you're wrong and learn from those mistakes. Can you imagine how boring the world would be if everybody was just like you? Everybody thought like you, liked everything that you liked, lived where you lived, and did it, you know, it would be so boring. You know, diversity is a good thing. It helps us to be better people and have interesting. I mean, can you imagine just watching this one TV show over and over and over? No new episodes. There's like 5 episodes, and that's all you watch over and over every day for the rest of your life. It'd be kind of boring. I mean, you've got that one song that's your favorite song that you listen to it every time it comes on, but if that were just the only song in the world, no. Do you just listen to one song, or do you listen to other songs?
I usually just one song.
Just one song all the time?
I've been listening to the same song for the last 4 months.
You're weird.
But before that, you didn't listen, did it just come out? Did you do that before?
No,
Well, see?
it's like a new one that I found.
Okay.
Like I've been listening to that. So that's it.
You're different.
In 2
I am
years, yeah,
different,
you
you're
are. But, you know, to me, that would be, I have songs that I love, but I don't want to hear the same one for the rest of my life. 4 months is okay. 4 years, you probably won't still be listening to it. Right. You know, you get burnt out. You feel like, oh, this again. You know, it's important. We're getting a lot of messages today that make us want to run to our corners and be with just the people, and if they're not just like us, they're the enemy. That's the enemy. That's the enemy of us becoming better people individually and as a world. That is that's an enemy of growth in general. And if something stops growing, it dies. Something that's not growing, it's not living. And we don't want to be that person. I want to be that person that the world is a little better because I was here, not worse. And part of that is me trying to give people room to be who they are. They don't have to be just like me for us to be friends or to get along. Of course, I have people that, you know, that have very similar tastes to me, but not everybody in my circle is like that. And I think that makes us better. It helps me to learn new things, and sometimes you learn that you like things that you didn't even know you liked. Another one of my life experiences, before Mountain View, I worked at a group home, and I lived there for 4 days a week. Boys again, God bless me. And little boys, it was a group home, but I had this one young man who, if it wasn't a hamburger, hot dog, or pizza, he hated it. I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. And the young men were used to going in and cooking whatever they wanted, and I did all the shopping and I made the menus, and so I'd go in and I wouldn't have everything I needed because on the other shift they had, you know, cooked whatever they wanted to. So I shut all that down, and I had a rule. I put out peanut butter and a loaf of bread. So you either eat what I cook or you have a peanut butter sandwich. Those are your only choices. And I said, all I ask is that you try a spoonful. If you've never had it, just try it. And that young man did, reluctantly, but he started eating everything. He loved it. But it's because he had never been exposed, and his mind was not open to anything else. So I kind of had to shove it on him, because he didn't want to eat peanut butter every day. But, you know, he learned that things are much better. We had never taken them, they'd never been to the beach. And so we were able to get an educational trip and take them to Charleston. Oh, I hate the beach, the beach is terrible. You know, this is what we heard the whole time. We're like, fine. So we're going to the beach the first day, because all the supervisors, we all wanted the beach. So we said, we're going to the beach the first day, and get it over with so we get our beach time and they can quit fussing. They absolutely loved it. And we went back every day because they had never been there. They had convinced themselves, because they'd heard whatever, that they hated it because they'd never done it. And it's like, how do you know you don't like somebody that's a different religion if you never talked to somebody of that religion? How do you know you don't like somebody that's any way different from you if you've never interacted with them? And even if you interact with one person and you don't like them, we all have different personalities. Every single person in that particular group isn't that one person. So I would just encourage you, for personal growth, for your professional growth, to try to be a little bit more open-minded. Be honest with yourself about your prejudices. Try to come out of your comfort zone with those prejudices, and learn to embrace people that are a little different from you. So that's all I got. Do y'all have any comments, any questions?